Watch this.
A new bill is moving on in the Idaho State House. It would require certain people to notify parents if their child is intending to transition their gender socially or medically, and provides harsh penalties if the parents are not told. Justin Court joining us now. Justin, what would this bill do?
Well, Hunter, House Bill 822 is what it's numbered. It would prohibit covered entities like healthcare providers, educators, childcare providers from facilitating a child's medical, sex transition or social transition without telling and getting consent from the child's parent or guardian. Specifically, it would require schools to notify parents within 72 hours if a student requests to use different names, pronouns, or sex-separated facilities. If they don't do that, they can be sued by the parents or the Idaho Attorney General for up to $100,000. Opponents say this is too harsh and it's too vague, which puts every coach, teacher, and medical professional at legal risk. Supporters say, though, this is about protecting parents' rights.
It was frankly an abuse of supermajority power to simply silence our voices, and it was something that was very inappropriate, and sure is something I hope.
We'll get to that, Sot, in a second. Now, before the House went at ease here, the bill passed along party lines with massive GOP support, 59-9. Let's hear from that sponsor, Bruce Skog, right now.
Hiding critical information for a child's well-being from parents is not in the child's best interest, nor does it allow for a holistic, well-rounded health decision. It is the parents who know the child's health history throughout that child's life. A doctor or counselor only has a snapshot in time of that child's health. Policies that force teachers and others to hide this information are certainly anti-family in the Idaho sense.
So again, bill passed, there it is, 59-9. But then the Democrats asked to have entered into the Journal their minority report. So that's a 7-page report on why they thought this bill was dangerous and their issues on how it was heard in committee. House Majority Leader, though, Jason Monks motioned to block that minority report from entering the Journal. And the House, again with massive GOP support, voted to approve that block. This almost never happens. I just talked to Representative Monks, Leader Monks, about this. He said, look, Journal is just a nuts and bolts record of what happens on the floor, and he didn't think it was fair that the Democrats' criticisms that he also thought were disrespectful would be the biggest part of this bill's entry in the Journal. Democrats, meanwhile, are furious, and they held a news conference this afternoon to talk about it.
It was frankly an abuse of supermajority power to simply silence our voices, and it was something that was very inappropriate, and sure is something I hope we never see again. I believe never in the history of Idaho has a majority used their power in this way to suppress a minority report.
We just got a joint statement from the ACLU, Planned Parenthood, and Legal Voice, also condemning the GOP blocking the minority report from going into the Journal. Monk said, though, he doesn't think the Democrats did anything wrong, just said he was exercising his right to make that motion. Meanwhile, the bill now headed to the Senate.
Okay, Justin, have you ever seen something like this happen before?
So you just heard Rebel talk about it. She was like, I don't know if this has ever happened before. I asked Leader Monks. I asked pretty much everyone I know who's worked down at the State House, who's been an elected official down at the State House. No one had ever seen or heard of this ever happening before, where they suspend the rules and they block a minority report from entering the Journal. But here we are, another first in the Idaho State House.
You know, a long list of firsts recently. All right, thank you. A bill meant to solve an alleged problem ended up creating quite a few more. That's what Idaho lawmakers say happened with the so-called Band-Aid bill. Today, lawmakers listened to people explaining the damage that came from this bill, and our Abby Wilt looks into how lawmakers are trying to fix it.
When we passed this, we thought we'd fixed a big problem, and I think we were all in shock of what a mess it turned out to be.
In an emotional hearing Wednesday,
I know one girl who has been hung up on 12 separate times in 12 different crises.
teens came before Idaho lawmakers to share how what many call the Band-Aid bill affected them in moments of crisis.
I was about to end my life, and I was admitted to the mental hospital. I often think about how different that night might have been if someone had simply stayed and listened.
The bill requires parental consent for any medical decision. That means something as simple as getting a Band-Aid at school.
If your child is at school, they fall and scrape themselves, absolutely you can provide first aid.
Or something as severe as calling the 988 suicide hotline and getting care.
They absolutely can call 988 and receive help when we're talking suicide.
Representative Barbara Ehart says the bill passed in 2024 has produced severe consequences.
We ended up with a young man, there were others, but whose femur had been broken, and they couldn't get a hold of the young man's parents. They didn't treat him.
Ehart rewrote the law into House Bill 860, which clarifies that non-emergency supplies like Band-Aids can be handed out and any kids in an emergency can be treated. The bill passed unanimously through the House Judiciary and Rules Committee Wednesday.
All of them agreed it needed to be done now, and I honestly don't think it could have gone better.
That it's a step toward a brighter future for younger people like me, especially because it takes so much courage to genuinely get out there and speak to someone random on the phone.
The bill now heads to the House floor. If it passes, Ehart says it will make sure kids can get the care they need.
There's no time. We are at the last minute. It does need to go forward.
And yes, that means they can even get a Band-Aid at school again.
So I hope that we don't do anything this time that would keep this from moving forward and getting enacted, because it is very problematic, the interpretation and the way things are now.
Okay, Abby, I'm following up here because I've covered a lot of stories on this bill too as soon as it came out. Is there any other fixes that they're looking at doing here?
Yeah, a prosecuting attorney did testify and said that he was looking for fixes around kids involved in a crime. What does that look like with parental consent? But lawmakers decided that if they sent this bill to the amending orders this late in the session, they worried that it wouldn't get through, and they said these fixes that are proposed are so urgent and so needed right now that we're going to go ahead and pass it.
One step at a time makes sense with the deadline, but yeah, it's something that I'm curious to see what happens next because, you know, talking to doctors and concerns over what that means when they have this in court, if they have to during emergency situations, I feel like there's still a lot to be flushed out there.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, Hunter. And also, if you are worried about someone who is harming themselves, know that you can always reach out to 988, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. That's available 24/7.
It is a big milestone for Idaho State University. It was founded 125 years ago today, and a lot has happened in that time. 2 pandemics, 2 world wars, 2 major recessions, and 5 name changes, among other things. We sat down with ISU President Robert Wagner about the past and how it shaped the ISU of today. At the turn of the century, the mayor of Pocatello proposed a bill to create a college in eastern Idaho.
State Senator Theodore F. Turner is considered the father of Idaho State University. He is because he's the one who ran the bill in 1901 with the state legislature that created the Academy of Idaho State. March 11th is the day that Governor Hunt signed the bill that created the academy.
School at the Academy of Idaho officially started in the fall of 1902.
They started with 40 students and 4 instructors. Senator Theodore F. Turner at the time was also the mayor of Pocatello, and he had lots of land holdings around the Pocatello area, and he donated 300 acres, including Red Hill.
Tuition was just $5 per term. The first building on campus, Swanson Hall, built in 1902 with an iconic arch in the middle. In 1915, the academy was renamed the Idaho Technical Institute, a 2-year vocational school. A year later, a T was placed on Red Hill, recognizing the name change from Academy to Tech. It lasted 10 years before it turned into a 4, a display by students who wanted the school to become a 4-year institution. In 1927, another name change, this time to the University of Idaho Southern Branch, with 4 divisions, including engineering and pharmacy. That same year, that 4 became an I.
So as the names changed, the letter changed. We went back to the orange I just because that's at the heart, really, and that I has stood the test of time through all of the different name changes. So that I on Red Hill is really iconic now.
Then came the school spirit, and Benny the Bengal mascot was introduced.
It was a very early athletic director and coach who had come from Princeton. They were the Tigers. At the time, the institution did not have a mascot. He didn't want to completely copy Princeton, so he went with the Bengals instead of the Tigers.
In 1947, Idaho Governor C.A. Robbins signed a bill creating a 4-year degree-granting institution called Idaho State College. Then came Reed Gym and the Student Union Building. And finally, in 1963, Governor Robert Smiley signed a bill officially renaming the school to Idaho State University.
As it grew its number of programs, grew the way that it was serving the estate, a name change came along with it.
In 1973, Swanson Hall was condemned and demolished, but the entry arch was preserved as a monument, known as Swanson's Arch.
And we have a tradition now. As students enter Idaho State University during new student convocation, and those students march through the arch, symbolizing their entry into Idaho State University and higher education. Then a few days before commencement, those same students 4 years later gown their graduation regalia and they march through the arch the opposite way. And we ring the bell, and that signifies them leaving Idaho State with their degree, their credential, and entering the world. We're just proud. It's celebrating 125 years this year. What we're celebrating is resiliency.
And of course, the party does not stop today. They are celebrating all year long. So ISU is asking all alumni to post their pictures to their online memory board. We have a link to do that in this story at ktvb.com.
Well, we are in the middle of another cool, gray, late winter day, but would you believe temperatures running about 10 degrees warmer than we were at this point yesterday? Very seasonable for this point in March, 54 degrees. Light winds out of the east at about 11 miles per hour. We have been breezy for most of our day, but all in all, the wind backed off quite a bit over yesterday, and it's nowhere near as strong as it's going to be tomorrow and on into the weekend. We've also been seeing some very light precipitation, mostly favoring our west central mountains. Brundage and Tamarack each have about 2 or 3 inches of fresh powder. We're also starting to see a couple of showers trying to develop right over the Magic Valley, but I don't even know if that precipitation will make its way all the way to the ground. There's not a whole lot of moisture in the very lower levels of the atmosphere. Plenty of moisture off to our west. Here's that atmospheric river that has just been hammering western Washington. You can see it streaming into the panhandle of Idaho, but the jet stream is just far enough north that really only our central mountain locations are going to see the impacts of wet weather, at least for the next several days. By Saturday, a quick hitting round of rain will come to the valleys as well as a cold front comes in. But for the next couple of days, it's the mountains that will bear the brunt of the wet and wintry weather. Look at McCall, though, as we talk about snow levels. Highs in McCall by Friday into the low 40s, morning lows above freezing. So that shows you how high our snow levels are. We'll continue to see accumulating snow above 6,000 to 7,000 feet. Up to a foot is possible over the next several days. Below that, though, mountain valleys may just see rain or a wintry mix, especially in the afternoons as those temperatures warm. Wind will end up being the big headline tomorrow for the lower elevations. We won't be at advisory levels in the Treasure Valley, but east of Boise into the Magic Valley, we could see wind gusts approaching 50 miles per hour tomorrow. That is a hold on to your hats and your small dogs kind of day, and it will make temperatures feel quite a bit cooler, even though we will warm up again tomorrow. Morning lows will be in the 40s, so all things considered for still being in the winter season, a pretty comfortable Thursday morning. Barely below freezing, even up in the mountains. So Stanley sits right at 6,000 feet, so you can see those snow levels 5,000 to 6,000 feet in the morning, rising to about 7,000 feet in the afternoon. That's where the accumulating snow will be. Windy across the board, windiest in the Magic Valley with highs in the low 60s. We'll be low to mid 60s across the Treasure Valley with still a mostly cloudy sky, breezy conditions, but pretty comfortable all in all. Friday, rinse and repeat, same setup for Friday. Then on Saturday, a cold front comes in. That is bringing back first alert weather conditions as we could see damaging wind gusts across our entire area and rain, especially in the morning. Kind of an unpleasant day to be outside. Temperatures cool Sunday behind that front. Then all eyes are on the heat for next week. Record-setting warmth looks likely to arrive on Tuesday. We could see 80 degrees in Boise by Wednesday.
One gold medal is hard enough, but 2 gold medals in 24 hours. That's just incredible. A big congratulations to Team Idaho's Jake Adikoff, who won gold this morning in the men's 10-kilometer cross-country classic. If you didn't know, he grew up in Sun Valley and skied with the Sun Valley Ski Education Foundation and is visually impaired skiing with a guide. This is his 6th career Paralympic medal, and he's got one more event to go in these games. He will take part in the 20-kilometer cross-country classic on Sunday, so watch for that one. Well, the Paralympics are well underway in Milan Cortina, and Team Idaho is well represented, as you just saw with Jake. Another team member of Idaho you may have seen on your social media feeds or in commercials is Dani Arovich. She's a summer and winter sport para-athlete. Her passion for sports has turned into a passion for para-athlete recognition on the world stage. And it's all thanks to a connection made at Bishop Kelly.
I was born at St. Luke's Hospital.
After moving around the West, her family settled back in Boise.
I went to St. Mark's, and then I graduated high school from Bishop Kelly. I ran for Bishop Kelly after a long time of playing soccer and basketball, and started running my junior year and got recruited. I was a cross-country and track and field runner in college.
After college,
I was actually living in Salt Lake City working for the Utah Jazz. And I started kind of like researching Paralympic track and field, and we heard about Annie
Carey, another Bishop Kelly grad and para-athlete.
Her mom, Sarah Carey, is actually the one who helped me get into parasport when I started. So she really helped me like navigate that process, got me in contact with some track coaches, and helped me get set up to be able to start competing. And then she also recommended me to this para-Nordic development coach too.
Her para-athletic career took off. She competed at the 2020 Summer Games in Tokyo in track and field in the 400-meter dash, where she finished 10th.
And while she says she grew up alpine skiing, she never tried cross-country skiing.
I didn't try cross country until I was 24 years old. It's incredibly tough. It's so technically challenging, and I'm at a great disadvantage against my competition because I started so late. And so my career and just the path to potential medals is going to look a lot different than some of my peers and my competitors because of my later start. But it's taken and forced a lot of patience in me.
She competed in the 2022 Winter Paralympics in Beijing, finishing top 10 in 2 events.
I had this professional sports background, and when I started competing and training, I really saw the great disadvantage that para athletes were at in terms of media, sponsorship, opportunity. And it's just something I got to witness so firsthand that I felt like, using my business background, I needed to find a way to tell these stories of these athletes, really help these athletes get more opportunity.
She's the co-founder of a social media company focused on covering para-athletes.
I think for so long I was seeking out a passion, and I thought my passion would be my personal business career and excelling as a woman in business. And ultimately it's really shifted to, trying to make sure Paralympic sport gets the coverage it deserves.
And it all started with a Boise connection.
That Bishop Kelly connection really helped set my career on a trajectory to be able to go to the games. So I owe Sarah Carey our BK connection a lot.
And by the way, Danny also competes in the biathlon. Her nickname? Biathlon Bandit. That's legendary. She says she's in for the 2030 Paralympics in the French Alps. As for LA in 2028, Danny says she's gonna see where life takes her, but here's the cliffhanger. She did say that if she does compete, it will be in a different sport than what she's competed in before. Take you of that. We'll be right back. Okay, check these out. The Idaho Steelheads are rebranding to the Boise Bigfoot. That's next week for 3 games. These are pretty cool, and if you look close enough, you'll see that the stick, I don't know hockey very well, but the stick is actually a tree, which is kind of cool. Yeah, there you go, you can see those. All right, the jerseys will be auctioned off, and 100% of the proceeds will go to St. Luke's Children's Hospital. And don't worry, you can get your hands on some of this merch starting next Tuesday at the team store next to ICCU Arena. Might be one I get my hands on too. All right, let's take a look at some of your comments. We have Alan who says, 208, if they can't fix it once, they will just put a Band-Aid on it. It's talking about the Band-Aid bill that we talked about earlier in the show. And that's kind of what it sounds like, doesn't it? Just a quick fix. Okay, moving on. 208, being a mascot is so fun. I have been a duck, a bear, and a dog. So fun, Teresa. Now, that's impressive. I will have to say, my brother was Joe Vandal for a little bit when I was in college, and that was a fun time. And I probably shouldn't disclose this, but he got out of a speeding ticket by dressing up as Joe Vandal and showing the citation next to the cop because he was also a Vandal alumni. So it is pretty fun. It did get him out of a ticket, so I gotta cheer you on there. All right. Here's my call out moment for all of you viewers at home. If you have any story ideas that you've been hearing around town, feel free to message us in. If you have any positive notes, any comments about what's going on, again, text us in. We want to hear it all. But again, we want those Idaho stories. We're getting there. Legislature hopefully wrapping up soon. I know that's a little maybe optimistic there, but fingers crossed. Anyways, go enjoy your day. We'll see you all back here tomorrow.
Continue with us and watch free now on the KTVB Plus app everywhere you stream.